Welcome everybody to another episode of the Ginger Binger podcast. Here, first time, his debut, my good friend,
aspiring hungover movie critic Alex Barker.
What a pretentious name, ladies and gentlemen.
Very.
All right, Alex. So, the Oscars were just a couple of days ago.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about them?
A little mixed. You ever watch something and it's like, especially something like the Oscars or a ceremony or whatever, where it's like you agree with what they're saying, like politically, but they couldn't be saying it in a more cringeworthy way, like even humanly possible. That was Jimmy Kimmel the entire show. It was like I agreed with about half the awards, and pretty much everything else in between the awards was like, it was boring. But Best Picture winners this year, or Best Picture winners rather, the nominees. It's probably the most solid lineup I think I've ever seen, honestly, in the time that I've been alive. Like, I actually went and saw all of them except for one, which was Darkest Hour, and I have little to no drive to see it.
Darkest Hour, that's the one with Gary Oldman, right?
Yeah.
I really wanted to see that one. I like Gary Oldman, I like World War II, and like the political behind it, the political aspects.
Maybe I'll enjoy it. It's just that I really, I don't know. I really like Gary Oldman, but I'm very bitter because this year the Best Actor Oscar went to Gary Oldman over Daniel Day-Lewis, and he retired this year. And he starred in Phantom Thread, and it was probably my favorite movie of the year, next to Three Billboards. And I don't know, man. It felt like a lot of people were saying, "Oh, Gary Oldman finally got his Oscar. He finally got his Oscar. He's been snubbed so many times." And I feel almost like a whiny douche for saying, "Oh no, it should have been Daniel Day-Lewis because, he's the greatest actor ever," or whatever. And it's like, "Oh, he's already won it 3 times." I said, "Yeah, but this is his retiring role, and if he won it the 4th time, he would have been the actor with the most Best Actor Oscars ever. And it would have fit him more than anybody, really."
Isn't he already with the most Best Actors, or is he tied with somebody?
I believe I really hope I'm getting this right. I think he's still tied with somebody.
I think Jack Nicholson, maybe?
Jack Nicholson?
I think Jack Nicholson has 3.
3?
Yeah, because he said 1 for each decade.
Oh my god. I'm trying to think of what movies they'd be. I don't think he won for The Shining, because The Shining was really poorly received when it came out for some reason.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Okay, yeah.
As Good as It Gets.
That one?
I think he won Best Actor for that, and I think maybe... I don't know if he won for The Departed. I think there's a 3rd one. He won in the 80s, I think, for something.
Yeah. The Departed would make sense, which I feel bad I still haven't seen. I love Martin Scorsese. Don't you fucking give me that look.
That movie, it's got an all-star cast, actually.
Like, I know.
It's almost like the Ocean movies, where the cast is just a bunch of, like... You could tell on set that was probably very fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a Martin Scorsese movie. I get that feeling from most of his movies, especially Goodfellas, which I still think is... don't get me wrong, Godfather is a great movie, but when people go, "Oh, what's the greatest mob movie ever?" I always go, "Man, it's Goodfellas." It's like there's no contest for me. I
completely agree. I really enjoy The Godfather. But The Godfather is very romanticized of the telling of the mob, I feel.
Yeah.
Here's the reason why I say that. You don't see any of the effects of other people who are not in the mafia. You don't see any innocent people getting hurt or anything like that.
I find that it's kind of the same with Wolf of Wall Street, right? Where it's like you see all this. What do you think of Wolf of Wall Street? I know you saw it.
Not his best work, in my opinion.
Okay.
I think it's good. I think it's too long, in my opinion. I was not interested in the story for that long.
I understand where you're coming from. I thought the same thing going in. I'm like, it's a 3-hour movie about fucking Wall Street. I'm sure that's going to be well made. It's, Martin Scorsese, Willem Dafoe. Yeah, imagine Willem Dafoe as fucking Leo's character.
I would have actually preferred that. It's not that I don't mind Leo. I think Leo works, but in that character, it didn't strike with me.
Just imagine Willem Dafoe snorting the cocaine out of the hooker's ass.
That's not the first time Willem Dafoe has probably done that.
He's done a lot of crazy shit. But yeah, I really, really hold Wolf of Wall Street high. As far as I'm concerned, the only movie that came out that year that was as good as Wolf of Wall Street was Her, it's one of my favorite movies. Wolf of Wall Street is like a companion piece to Goodfellas, in my opinion. It's a step below, but it's like... It's not by much. I really, really enjoy it. I think the fact that it is 3 hours and you don't see any, like you said, any of the effects of these horrible things that the main character's doing. He's like putting all these people in bankruptcy and ruining all these people's lives and all that shit. But I don't know. I think it's the fact that you don't see it and he's on cocaine the whole time, and everything's so fast and so fast moving that you're kind of all caught up in it, just like he is. And by the end of the movie, when he gets clean, it feels like everything just stops for like 20 minutes, and you're supposed to kind of feel that come down. And the fact that it's 3 hours long, it's supposed to be excessive, and I feel like it's almost the point. But when you say that it's a little too much or long-winded, I can, like my rant. I can see what you mean.
So you just going back to the Oscars this year, Jimmy Kimmel. Do you not like Jimmy Kimmel, or is it just what his delivery was this year? An Oscar host really does have a lot to go through.
Yes. There's a lot of preparation here. I just don't think he's that charismatic. I think that he's not very funny. I don't like him or Jimmy Fallon very much. I'm not saying that they're the worst ever. I think that they're decent late night hosts, but they're not for the Oscars. I feel like, and this is coming from me, I'm not a big Ellen fan, right? But I think that she can host the Oscars. She knows how to get the crowd going. She knows how to do a little bit more funny skits than normal. And keep in mind, I'm comparing this to other Oscar skits that are cringeworthy.
Yeah.
But here's the number one thing, is that this year was the lowest rated Oscars in like a decade or more, right? Like nobody watched it. And one of the reasons is because all the streams were dying. Yeah, Ellen knows how to interact with the internet. She broke Twitter when she hosted the Oscars last time, because she took that one picture with like all of the celebrities all together, whatever, and it's like that alone would be enough, and that's a time capsule, that picture. Yeah. I really, I mean, I didn't, even at the time, I was like, am I really going to remember this? Yeah, I do, honestly, and a lot of people do.
So, when choosing a host for the Oscars, do you think that they should go for someone who's a little more mainstream, like Ellen, Jimmy Fallon, or someone who maybe is more like a stand-up comedian, who it would be good at like telling jokes through the whole night?
You know what's funny is about a year ago I said I wouldn't have minded if Louis C.K. hosted the Oscars. No, I really think that someone who has a talk show would be an okay idea for a host. But Ellen isn't just a talk show. It's like something that all the moms watch. You know, it's like she starts her show and she gets up and, she dances her way to the stage and talks about, bulges in men's pants and shit. Like, that's her show, essentially. It's like...
The Ellen Show, bulges in men's pants. All right, that's our review on the Ellen Show.
Whenever I see, like, all that alt-right shit on Facebook, it's like, oh, look how crazy the left is. Like, oh, like, all these crazy feminists. There's always, like, an Ellen clip they show or whatever. And it's like, I get it, but Jesus Christ. There's crazier shit. I think that Ellen is a little... I don't want to say smug. I think that's the wrong word, But I feel like she thinks that she's funnier than she really is. She's earned her way up, though, and she's inspiring, right?
And just going back to stand-up, she was a stand-up comedian before this.
Yeah. I feel like, me and Lance were talking about this last night, I feel like she's almost like, bear with me here, she's almost like gay white Oprah. It's like, I feel like Oprah, I don't find her that interesting or that whatever, but it's like it or not, she's still a shining beacon in the black community and arguably like the most successful black person ever. Like next to like what, Samuel L. Jackson or like...
Oprah is a billionaire.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? And it's like, regardless of how much you respect her or not, you can't take that away from her. Just like Ellen was very successful in like the 80s and 90s when gays were a lot more stigmatized than they are now. And she was a beacon of hope for them. So that's great. I can't take that away from her. But she's not my favorite comedian,
I do see the parallel that you're making between Oprah and Ellen. I find, for me, Ellen is a lot funnier versus Oprah is a lot more... Well, here's how someone described it. They said, when you walk into a bar and you see Ellen, you have a smile and you have a laugh. When you walk into a bar and see Oprah, you feel hope. That's how they describe it. You just feel the hope.
I feel partially intimidated. It's like, what am I doing in the same fucking bar as Oprah? Like,
am I going to get thrown out of here?
How expensive are these drinks going to be? But I really, I like Oprah, but I feel like sometimes she can, much like that, I mean, you saw that thing from, 10 years ago, the 9,000 penises thing. She can jump the gun a little bit when it comes to, And I hate to say this on a fucking podcast of all places, because I mean, like, if anything, most people would call me a quote-unquote social justice warrior. But it's like, you're either one thing or another right now. And that leads me back to the Oscars, because that's what the whole goddamn show was. It's like, I just want to watch movies. I just want to... I want to hear that my favorite movie won an award of some kind. That's all I came here for. I don't want 3 hours of, like... like I mentioned earlier, that Call Me by Your Name, one of my favorite movies of the year. It's getting all this press now that it's just this gay movie, and that's it, right? And it's like, and if it's not that, you have a lot of people saying that it's advocating pedophilia or something like that because the main character's 17, and the person
the supporting character,
the guy he gets with is like 24 or something, and it's like, I can see that, but have you seen the movie?
I have not, no.
Yeah, exactly. Like that, but a lot of people go right into it and they just instantly assume all this shit without seeing any context or anything from the actual movie. The ending monologue in Call Me by Your Name is one for the ages. But Jimmy Kimmel comes on stage like, yeah, I didn't make much money, but we don't make movies like this to make money. We make movies like this so that we can infuriate people like Michael Pence. It's like,
I do like that joke though.
Okay, you might. Yeah, okay, maybe it's because you're hearing it out of context. When you've been hearing jokes like that, like boom, 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 for like 2 hours at that point, it's like, all right. And it's the worst part is when you agree with that stuff and you're just like, can you give it a rest for 5 minutes? We know the world's in shambles. Can we just watch something like The Shape of Water that won Best Picture, and just forget about everything and just have a nice movie that's just, it makes you feel warm at the end and you go home happy, like shit.
I understand what you're saying, that a lot of, and especially with the current political climate in the States.
I'm not saying you shouldn't talk about it, by the way.
No, I wasn't getting that from that statement.
Oh yeah, I've heard a lot about that this morning. They're just celebrities, don't talk politics.
I feel like there is some heavy-handedness, and I understand they have the platform to do it, and I would do it too.
Yeah.
But I get where you're coming from with, okay, we hear about this all the time. Can we just have a night where we just decompress, and it doesn't, and it's like, I think how I interpret what you're saying is, we can have it in there, but let's just not make it all about that. These are still about film.
Yeah, it really was like 90% of what they talked about, and it's like, and I mean, it was a bit more relevant because, like for example, we have Get Out was nominated for Best Picture.
I haven't seen that movie. I wanted that to win because that is not your typical Oscar movie.
It won Best Original Screenplay.
Yeah,
it was so cool. And Jordan Peele, like 5 minutes, like during the commercial break, he took to Twitter. He was like, "I just won an Oscar." ... WTF in big letters. It added like this like human layer to it. It's like, this is just a guy who wrote a movie. Like it's not just like, not everybody who wins an Oscar is just some bigwig like, oh, I like to thank the Academy and this, It's like for example, the guy from Dartmouth, like right around here, who won for production design for Shape of Water. I don't know.
There definitely is that layer when you're watching the Oscars of, and I think that's why someone like Jennifer Lawrence became such a public darling, is because she had that human relatability to it. Versus a lot of people, while they're great performers, you don't see them as living in the real world, They don't stop at a gas station and take a shit in the bathroom. Like, you don't think that when you think Meryl Streep, for example.
Yeah,
they're not relatable. What?
That's especially after watching The Post this year.
Yeah.
That movie is just as fucking boring as it looks. I know that people are going to jump on my ass and go like, oh, it was technically well made. I can't think of a single shot that was very inspiring. I can't think of a single performance that was, like Bob Odenkirk's in it, like Saul or whatever. He's fine. You got Tom Hanks is probably the best part about it, and it's only because he was really over the top, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, he always had the corner of his mouth open. He's like, all right, we're going to write this newspaper. Like, he was like that the whole movie, and Meryl Streep was just Meryl Streep. There was nothing that was not exactly what you'd expect, Where was I going with this before The Post? I got so fucking bent into shape.
While you're thinking about that, I have a question.
Yeah.
Was The Room nominated for anything this year? I know it did well in the Golden Globes.
Surprisingly, The Disaster Artist was only nominated.
Oh, that's what I meant, The Disaster Artist, yes.
Okay. I thought you were just doing a meme there. It was actually nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay, and I'm really happy that it lost to Call Me By Your Name, because it was really, really well written. Mm-hmm. But although, I don't know. I'm just feeling really bitter. I'm like, I could put anything in there for Darkest Hour. Put The Disaster Artist in there. Put Coco in there if you want to. I don't know.
You should put the Ozark film from Frozen, that 20-minute short film, in there.
Ozark?
What's his name?
Olaf,
whatever. Ozark, that's the Netflix show, isn't it?
Oh my god. I'm thinking.
Guys, it's an early morning for me.
Oh, dude, me too. I'm very hungover and rambling too much. But it's the only reason it's memorized, man, is because that fucking Olaf shit was just pounded into my head. You ever see Coco this year?
I didn't because I didn't want to sit through the 20-minute short film.
That's a shame. The movie's worth it.
Because when I remember I watched Frozen, I enjoyed Frozen. I liked the big musical number of Let It Go.
I did. I just like the oversaturation of it.
But I found that character to be the most obnoxious because you could tell he was put in there by like the studio's like, we need this comic relief character. He needs to be there. He's got to be cute. We got to put him on T-shirts. He felt so forced.
The weird thing is, though, is that when I first saw Frozen, me and Taylor, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't see the trailers. I just saw the poster, and his head's being held up, or he's holding his head up or whatever, and he has that Disney face, and I'm like, he's going to be the Jar Jar Binks character, and I'm going to hate him. He's going to be awful. And I remember seeing it the first time, and I was like, wow, he didn't annoy me very much. And I remember really liking the fact that where a lot of comedic side characters, when something crazy would happen, they get nervous, they would start screaming and getting louder, where Olaf gets quieter. And I found that funny the first time I saw it, and then Frozen was everywhere for like fucking half a decade. like legit. No, I'm not even exaggerating that much, am I? It's 2018, and Frozen, until like last year, was still pretty rampant, or at least until 2 years ago. It's still 2 solid years of fucking Frozen everywhere.
Well, I mean, if you walk down the toy aisle at a Walmart for little girls, you'll see Frozen all in there.
It really is this generation's Lion King when you think about it, because I wasn't like old enough to really get the press part of the Lion King, because I mean I was born in '94, right? It was like the first movie I ever fucking watched. But the Lion King, from what I hear from a lot of kids who grew up in the '90s, it was like, like this, where it was just fucking everywhere. Even when Pocahontas came out next year, and then Hunchback the year after that, people were watching Lion King still, like more than anything else.
And I think the problem when you oversaturate a movie is that it takes away from the movie actually being good. It becomes, you almost resent it.
It's a shame though, because like I feel almost petty for doing that, right? Because it's just like, especially when I enjoyed it the first time I watched it a lot, and I'm like, wow, this is so great, and then I hear someone with the exact same opinion as me 2 years ago watch it for the first time now, and I'm just like, it's a piece of shit. Why do you fucking like? It's just me being an asshole. It has nothing to do with the actual movie. It's my perception of the movie, and the movie hasn't changed at all.
Just speaking of oversaturation of products, I think this is an unpopular opinion automatically. Too much Star Wars in the world.
How is that unpopular? If anybody disagreed with that, I'd be like, have you been paying attention?
Well, it's just, here's the thing. Star Wars is the definition of oversaturation.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, a film every year. It's like Marvel, at least. I like the idea that Marvel's tying in everything, but it feels like episodes.
We get 2 Marvel movies a year now.
Yeah.
Last year we got 3.
What is it, like the new trilogy? I like that, but the standalones, like, to me, Star Wars was always good because you had to wait, and when the next movie came out, you were more mature, you were older.
It's an event now, and it was an event back then. It doesn't feel as special now.
That's the thing. It's not. I feel for me, and hey, if you get the joy out of Star Wars movie,
every year, go right ahead, man. But don't come up to me and try and tell me that Rogue One's a good movie. I challenge any of you. No, I don't actually. Don't be mean to me on the internet, please.
No, I didn't like Rogue One either. I didn't care for it.
I straight up hated it. And I don't say that about any of the Star Wars movies, even the prequels, which I thought were bad movies. I got, it's just the nostalgia. That's literally the only reason I don't hate them the same way I hate Rogue One.
Speaking of, just because I didn't remember any of the characters' names, but a character I really like from the new batch of Star Wars, I love Kylo Ren, and I know a lot of people who hate him.
Yeah. I know a lot of people that hated him in The Force Awakens, and that was Lance included, and I was trying to tell him the whole time, like, no, this is kind of what they're going for, and he started to rub up to it, or get used to it a little bit more, and by the time Last Jedi came out, he was excited, and me and him both really liked The Last Jedi. Oh shit, did I just say something super controversial on the internet?
I didn't mind it. I felt like The Last Jedi, though. Here's how I describe The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Quinn. Is this not Quinn? Not Quinn. I'm screwing up the name. There's
Ray,
Poe.
Finn.
Finn. Yeah. See, I sound like I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about with movies. Finn's story I did not give a damn about. Poe's story was the one that had an actual arc, and I felt like I wanted just more from Kylo and Rey.
I feel like, oh my god, you want to talk about people wanting to crucify me? I feel like the movie should have been like another half hour longer. I feel like they could have had another 10, 15 minutes of Rey and Luke. I feel like we're lacking a little bit. We got enough, but we didn't get enough. You know what I mean? We didn't get as much time as like Luke got with Yoda in Empire Strikes Back. Or maybe we did. There's going to be someone in the comments saying there was exactly 13 minutes in Empire Strikes Back. It's just really famous. But yeah, we got just enough time for that, I guess. Poe, I totally agree, was the most interesting arc. Finn and Rose.
That kiss at the end of that movie was the most awkward looking thing. Yeah, I think maybe it's done on purpose. Like, is Finn gay? Or...
I don't think so. I think they're really trying to push it, and I think that they needed to give them something to do, and I feel like they forced the romance too fast because I feel like people would have complained if they forced the romance in the last movie. Because, all they did was go to a casino, or whatever, but they're shooting themselves in the foot here. I feel like it was a problem I had with the movie, but people are really, really going overboard. Because I saw The Last Jedi 3 times. I'm a big Star Wars fan. I'll give them a chance. I saw Rogue One twice, fuck. I saw Attack of the Clones twice in theaters. But, yeah, the Finn and Rose stuff, very, very, very overstated about how bad it is. They're there for, 10 minutes. People are like, they're there for, half the movie. You guys are really, really overstating that.
I would say for me, it felt very forced, and I don't like to be one of the people comparing it to the original, but the way they do...
Well, you can, though.
The way they do Han's and Leia's romance is really good because it's built up, it's slow, and you can see that...
You can see it, though. It's a genuine bond.
Yes, that they get, it's not just... They don't just say, I love you because it's that time of the movie, too. It's been building this whole movie... And Han has been, they've been at each other's throats, but they've had those moments where they do get to bond, like when they're in the ship together and it rolls and she ends up on his lap and they have that moment.
And it's like...
It's a human moment.
That's why he says, I know, and doesn't say the original line, I love you too, because I think that has more of a connection because, you really feel like he does know. It's great.
And it's a great moment because that's exactly what someone like him would say. He wouldn't be like, I love you too. I know.
It's the last great Han Solo moment. That's a controversial statement.
No, I actually really like Han Solo in The Force Awakens. He's funny in that movie. He's really funny.
He's better than he is in Return of the Jedi, which honestly, you mind if we get on Return of the Jedi for a second?
All right, yeah. Lead the conversation, Senator.
I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say because this is where a lot of people get kind of half and half. I remember Taylor were discussing Star Wars the other day, and she was like, "So, Return of the Jedi, what do you think?" I'm like, "Probably that's a 5 out of 10 movie." She's like, "What?" Well, I mean, it's not that she loves the movie or anything like that. She still says Empire's the best. But it's I really don't care for Return of the Jedi very much. I think that the first, essentially half of it is just escaping from Jabba's prison, right? And it's it's a fun sequence, right? But it feels like it shouldn't be taking up this much time. And then I'm like, but it was still fun. That's fine. If the rest of the movie stays like that, maybe it'll be a cool standalone thing. Then the movie kind of stops for 15 minutes. And they have a briefing thing, which is fine. I expected that. Then they go to Endor, and I really don't like it. I really don't at all. It feels like it's a children's film after that.
I don't like the Endor stuff just because I find the stakes there. I don't know why, but the stuff where they're trying to with the big battle, I didn't have a connection for.
There was no tension.
Yeah.
I felt it's especially as an adult. As a kid, I thought it was one of the better ones, but I saw them all as one big movie, Back to the Future, essentially, because I used to watch the original trilogy VHS as one after the other. But and this is the original release before they changed it too.
To me, the strongest moment in that whole movie is Luke on the ship with Vader, because that's what makes the movie, especially the moment when Vader breaks Luke when he taunts him and Luke loses his temper. It's that's a holy crap.
Well, to touch on that for a second on The Last Jedi, I remember one of the big criticisms was, Luke would never break like that, and he was the one who was able to see the good in Vader, and why the hell couldn't he see the good in this guy who... I was like, okay, well, first of all, he could tell which was the truth. Kylo Ren was becoming more powerful than pretty much everybody there. And are you seriously trying to tell me that he's not able to break? Did you see Return of the Jedi? He was literally wailing on Vader without thinking. He could have stabbed him, but he just kept hitting the saber because he's so angry. I think that the Luke and Vader stuff equals the movie out. If it wasn't for that, I honestly don't think I'd like it. It's not that I hate it, but I'm I don't really care for it.
To me, just going back to Last Jedi, I really wanted to see more of that backstory with Kylo, because I would have loved to have seen because he says he killed half of the students and the other half he took off with. I want to see that conversation where it's...
Ooh, yeah.
Because that to me is just that's interesting. I love to see coups and stuff like that.
I would love to see a director's cut of The Last Jedi. No one wants this but me. But, it's... I want to see, like, the Knights of Ren. Everybody's begging for it or whatever.
I want to see the Knights of Ren, too. And they haven't showed us. I'm like, what the... I want to see the Knights.
It's cool if they're saving it, and it's cool if they have like this. It's like Jabba. I feel like if the new trilogy was coming or the old trilogy was coming out now, we'd be like, "Where's Jabba? He keeps talking about Jabba, but now he's like this forced character in the last movie." Like I feel like a lot of these criticisms, if you would put them on the original trilogy, you could be an asshole about those movies too. But especially with Empire Strikes Back and Last Jedi, not saying that they're of equal quality. I love Empire a lot more, but. It's like the end of Empire, there's so many loose ends. And at the end of Last Jedi, there's so many loose ends. And I don't think that it's as bad of a thing as people are making it out to be, as long as they tie it up in the third movie without it being rushed. One of the biggest problems people have with The Last Jedi, I have no fucking issue with at all. And that's Laura Dern from Twin Peaks came in and she played, what's her name? Admiral Hodor or something like that? I forget her name.
Here's the problem I have with that. I don't have a problem with the actors. I think I have a problem with the character. And I think this is how, and I think because they weren't planning on Carrie Fisher dying. I mean, you can't plan it on that.
The movie was done, I believe.
Yeah.
Though.
This is how, to me, for a stronger character moment, because you just introduced her in this movie.
Yeah.
Her sacrifice doesn't, to me, have enough weight, because we've only known her for like 40 minutes, it feels like, at this point.
I felt like it did. I don't know.
To me, and plus, when she's not telling Poe, that to me was kind of like, why don't you just tell your crew? It felt like just not telling the audience. That's all it felt like.
I don't like that argument because I've seen the movie 3 times and my opinion's better than yours.
Yeah.
No, it's not. I hear that criticism all the time, and I gave it some thought because I thought the same thing. I'm like, why the fuck didn't you just tell him? I've got a reason. A lot of people don't like the reason that I have, and I can see why. I'm not going to say that I'm right and you're wrong. But my reasoning was that the size of the Resistance in the first movie, The Force Awakens, it's small, but they're just starting to rise up. And The Last Jedi, they're much smaller, and they start the movie off by literally killing off like 80% of the Resistance. It's like they are like 200 people, maybe. And they're able to fit in that small hangar in the end of the movie. That's how tiny they are. That's the entire army now. They have no more ships. They have no more this, and they're out of fucking fuel. They're screwed. But at the very end, or right in the middle or whatever, when she's like, no, I can't tell you any of these plans or whatever, it's because Leia was the person leading the Resistance for, we don't really know, but for apparently like a decade or more. She's the most respected general in the whole galaxy that isn't an asshole villain, And now she's been incapacitated, so it's left to this war hero who has to keep up with her reputation. And it's like, all right, Leia's the person that I'm standing in for. Her last thing was to put you down and demote you and be like, you're not allowed to have this intel anymore. That's what I thought. But if someone was like, oh, well, she could have just told him, they could have avoided a lot. It's like she still sacrificed herself and they still got away. If that was the case and they just got screwed anyway, I think it would hold a lot more weight.
Here's my whole problem, I guess, with that storyline. Mm-hmm. When they get tracked through hyperspace and they're like, nobody can track us through hyperspace. I thought the direction they were going to go is that there is a spy on the ship. And
that would have been interesting.
Because that, to me, I felt personally, that would have been a little more interesting.
It could have been.
On the ship, because you can't escape the ship. Everybody's on there, so you have to find this spy before any information gets leaked. Mm-hmm. That would have been that to me, I would have had Finn and Rose be doing. They're trying to figure out who this spy is. And it could be Admiral Akbar, it could be Poe. It could be just basically. But here's the thing, I think, why it would have been a little more powerful for it to be Leia, because she's this beloved character, and Leia would do anything for the Resistance.
I feel like her making the sacrifice would have been much more...
It would have hit home. And then
She wouldn't have met Luke either.
Yeah, and that would have been that would have been unsatisfying, but in a story like...
In like an way,
like a good way, not an unsatisfying. Oh, that sucks. It's like, oh, it breaks your heart. And then with Luke dying at the end, the last movie, no returning characters really, just all these people, these kids
You've
on
given
their
them
own.
2 movies as a springboard to do their own thing.
Yeah, they're on their own. They've got to do it all now. And that would put them at their lowest point because they not just lost 1 hero, they lost 2.
Yep.
But again, everybody has their, this is what I would have done differently.
Oh, yeah, and oh my god, it's like Red Letter Media said, it's like, what's Disney going to do for the last movie? It's like you look through all these comment sections and it's like, well, in my version of The Last Jedi, they do that. It's like, that's what we should do for movies now. From now on, we should just go to the comment section and make a new movie for every comment that wants their individual movie. And then everyone has their Last Jedi. So everyone's happy. Yeah. And no one's happy.
No, I really, though, I felt like The Last Jedi tonally felt different, but I felt like there were some parts, they had some really good moments, and then there were some I was like,
The Princess Leia moment where, like, the infamous moment where she's out in space and she, like, flies was stupid. But it didn't ruin the movie for me like it ruined a lot of people.
For me, I think that just caught me off guard, and then it felt kind of like tacked on, like she can do that all of a sudden.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. If people there's people on both sides. Some people are just like, oh, this is stupid and irredeemable and whatever. And some people like me are just kind of like, well, it feels just kind of tacked on because like when I watched it for the first time, I wasn't aware that she had finished filming. I almost thought that like, oh shit, is she just going to be in bed for the rest of the movie? Like, what are they going to do with this character? Is she just going to die? Mm-hmm. If not, why didn't they just leave her out in space and just kill her in the script?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that be more respectful? I mean, she didn't go out gracefully, but I mean, it's like, wouldn't she just be done and over with? Isn't she kind of... I feel like Carrie Fisher would have not minded that.
Well, to me, when you say not gone out gracefully, not every hero gets a hero's death.
Yeah, it's like my sick fuck fantasy with me and Taylor. Like, we're big Walking Dead fans. We're thinking, like, sometime in the comics that Rick Grimes, like, during, like, a gunfight of some kind, because it's been, like, 10 years nearly in the storyline, we're almost thinking, like... just in a crossfire, like Rick will be yelling an order to somebody and all of a sudden just like right in the head. And it's like Carl will just like hold him in his arms or whatever. And it's like to everybody else in the battlefield, it's just another guy that fell. But to the reader, it's like, that's Rick Grimes. That's the fucking protagonist. It's like there's not enough things that have the balls to kill off characters in a really unceremonious way. It has to be very drawn out. That's why I'm like, usually when something's done in a really realistic way, it hits me harder, and I think it's much more sad that way because it's like, oh man. Well, some drawn out death scenes are really sad though.
Yeah, I agree. I think drawn out death scenes can work, but I feel like a lot of like when they had their big heroes, I like when sometimes Game of Thrones is really good at doing it for not drawn out like these heroic death scenes. Oberyn Martell is my prime example of this character who's bravado, and he had it won, and he lost, and look, when you rewatch that scene versus him in the mountain, you see it from the beginning, from when he started that season to the end. You knew it couldn't have gone any other way because it wouldn't have satisfied him, and that's how he was going to go. Because even if he killed the mountain, he'd have to kill Tywin, and like it was never going to end.
Yeah.
And that to me, because it was so sudden, you knew it just a second before it happened. You knew it, but it was too late then, and then it just.
It was like, it was about 10 solid seconds of knowing he's completely fucked and there's no way he's going to win this fight. Like, he's going to die and he's going to die screaming. Yeah, that was fun.
and you sit there and see, to this day, I still remember weeks after, I'd think about that and I'd feel it. Like, I'd still feel it.
Yeah.
And when a movie can make you feel, and that's the thing I feel like sometimes people as artists lose track of, and sometimes people as fans. It's all about the feeling. Like, it's all about the feeling and what you take away from that. Because a movie can look beautiful and it can be, technically made great. But if you don't feel it, what's the point?
If you don't mind me being a film snob for a minute. My favorite directors of all time, my 2 favorites were actually friends back in the 70s. Stanley Kubrick, that's number 1. I love him to death. My second favorite is David Lynch. I didn't know anything about David Lynch until last year, and I watched Twin Peaks from start to finish with Lance. And I know he mentioned it on the podcast last time. He's like, it's the best show ever. And it's like, man, we both have our preferences, though, because first 2 seasons are in, like, the late 80s, early 90s, and the new season is, like, now. And in some ways, space and time don't matter. But it's like... not to get too into it.
Are they still the same character, same storyline, or is it like a reboot?
I mean, it's not a reboot, but are they the same characters? I don't know. Are they, Dylan? You should watch the show.
Okay. Touche, motherfucker.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like Twin Peaks. Watching that, it literally changed how I see film as an art form. It before Twin Peaks, it would have been like when I was 10, when I saw like King Kong, like from the 30s for the first time. That really got me into the art of filmmaking and special effects and all that. Special effects that for the most part I now shit on, but I love King Kong for me, that milestone. Twin Peaks showed me that I could appreciate something without truly understanding it. It sounds like it doesn't make sense, and it's hard to market it to somebody, because all I knew was that it was trippy, it was like David Lynch. I watched it because I heard like 10 out of 10 reviews for The Return, which had like 4 episodes out at the time, and I'm like, well, I hear this is like the best TV show ever from some people. It's 2 fucking seasons. Fuck it, I'll watch it with Lance. And it was like 2 episodes in, and I'm like, yeah, I'm in this for the long haul. I think if I were to suggest it to anybody, watch the first 3 episodes. And if you're not hooked by the end of the 3rd episode, I'd be like, you might still like it. I'd say power through to the end of the 1st season. But if you absolutely hate it by the end of the 3rd episode, you're not going to get anything from the show. But yeah, Twin Peaks The Return is essentially an 18-hour-long movie, because that's what he wanted it to be. He's like, I haven't directed a movie in over 10 years. This is going to be my magnum opus. And he's like, let's bring back this show that got prematurely canceled because I left it for like half a season. The network didn't know what the hell to do with it. And I'm like, what? And he came back for the finale, and he said he wanted so many loose ends in the finale that they have to give him a 3rd season, and they didn't, because no one was watching at the time. They literally ended it on like the biggest cliffhanger arguably in TV history, for like a cliffhanger that was never resolved. That was like, not like The Sopranos, where it's like it ends and you're like, oh, what happens next? It's like there was supposed to be something and there wasn't.
Yeah.
And then the 3rd season comes out, and the whole theme about it pissed people off that had waited 25 years, because the whole point was that you're not supposed to solve the mystery. And that was 8 episodes in, that was the point when they took a 2-week hiatus, and I think that was the point when David Lynch was like, all right, take the show or leave it, because it was like all these unanswered questions, and they have this main character who's literally like mindless now, who's like walking around, case files, call for help, and he's talking like that, where he used to be this charismatic character, and it's like 8 hours in, and you're like, what the fuck? We're like halfway through. What's it gonna do? And then it's like, all right, the cast are building up this episode. What's this one gonna be about? And it's like, meanwhile, in 1945, the atomic bomb was created. And it's like, oh my god! And it's a straight like hour-long art house film, and it ends with like people getting their heads crushed, and like radio signals putting people to sleep, and frog flies crawling in people's mouths and shit. It's like, what the fuck? But yeah, I've rambled too long already. Anybody who's listening to this, holy shit. If that didn't convince you to watch Twin Peaks, I don't know what will.
So, would you recommend this for children?
Yes. Yes. I honestly, if you're over the age of like 13, you could watch the classic Twin Peaks fine. Probably not understand it fully. I don't think anybody truly will. The new season's not meant to be understood, but that's kind of the point. But damn it, like you said, it makes you feel something. It's like, if the feeling's not there, what does it matter? I felt more watching The Return of Twin Peaks than I have in any movie the past like 5 years I've been alive. That's insane. And I couldn't tell you half the plot, because it's just, you just feel it. But it's not one of those things where it's like just abstract, like all over the screen, and you're like, oh, I feel such art. It's abstract, but it's not that abstract. There's a plot.
Okay, so it's abstract with structure.
Yes. And even then, the structure's very loose.
Well, again, you can contradict yourself that way. I feel like, especially when a contradiction is made, I feel like a lot of people use that as like in politics, when you contradict yourself. Humans are contradictory. That's exactly who we are.
I've probably done it 3 times this podcast already.
Well, I just to go off on a little tangent here about, you can have like a film and it can contradict itself, as long as it does it smart. It's got to be made with a purpose. It can't just contradict itself because you're a shitty and lazy writer.
Mm-hmm.
It's what's that lyric from the song? I'm a walking contradiction, partly truth, partly fiction. I feel like, not just because there's a contradiction doesn't mean that's a negative aspect on it.
What's that song, man? Walking. Oh, wait, is that Green Day? I'm thinking of a different one, right?
I have no idea what
Jesus
it is. Like.
Christ.
It's like a song from the 70s, I think.
Oh my god, yeah, I'm not thinking Green Day.
Green Day before.
Oh, still in the womb. No.
Okay.
I just had a brain fart there. Oh my god.
No, it's better than an actual fart.
Edit out and post still when you're good at this.
Yeah. So, would you say then that this year the Oscars were Because the Oscars, to me, have always had this view of pretentiousness.
Yeah, I think so. I think though that they're all about giving it to the little guy now, and I respect that. I really respect that, especially now that I'm in the city and I have a little more access to see independent films. But here's the thing about the Oscars is that they have their head up their own ass and they think they're amazing. But it's so funny because last night they went off for like an hour straight about how like, oh, look at this Me Too movement, all this stuff, like, which is stuff I agree with. But then they gave Kobe Bryant, an accused rapist, a fucking Oscar, and there were like scattered boos throughout the audience. I'm like, oh my god.
Where did Kobe Bryant win?
He won for a short documentary. John Williams did the music. It was called Dear Basketball, I think.
Okay.
I don't know much about it, and just for the record, I don't know about these fucking rape accusations. I didn't know anything until he won, and I kind of heard the discourse online. I'm like, oh, geez, good job, Oscars.
Yeah, that does kind of send a mixed message. And again, these charges were not. I don't think he was convicted, but again, too, that
I can basketball.
I can still see why people were a little discordant with that.
I mean, because I think there would have still been anyway, but not as much if the whole show hadn't been so in your face about look at how progressive we are. Let's give the award to this guy. I think that's partially. I'm still bitter about it. I'm sorry. I think that's partially why Phantom Thread didn't have a chance at Best Picture, because I feel like a lot of people would. I don't think a lot of the Academy saw it. First of all, I think they felt obligated to give it Best Costume Design, and then they swept it off their shoulder like, go away.
See, I don't understand how that works from someone who's not in the Academy. Isn't it a requirement to you to see each movie that you're in your... That should be your requirement. Nope. What's the point then of you being in the Academy?
I know, right?
Because I remember a few years ago, a lot of people weren't viewing Straight Outta Compton. Mm-hmm. And to me, what is the point then? It's literally just like, well, this is how I vote. This is how I viewed the Oscars since I got out of college.
Okay.
And my teacher explained it really well. He's like, the Oscars are there to make more money. And I asked him, how do you mean? He's like, well, think about it. When all the Oscar nominees get put out there, everybody's going to the theater to see it. Everybody's trying to view it, get more publicity. And then when you market it, when it comes out on video,
you have all those award statues everywhere all over the
exactly.
DVD cover.
And it's like, if you win, just how many more people are going to see that?
Yes, but you know what? That's not inherently a bad thing either, because I find that a lot of really, really underrated films are getting the spotlight now. Like, I would never imagine a world where something like Lady Bird would get this much publicity 10 years ago. Or like Call Me By Your Name, or maybe Phantom Thread, but it's like, even then, it's not going to hit a mainstream audience. There are Three Billboards, for example, arguably one of the best movies I've ever fucking seen, ever. I really do mean that. It's a shame we can't watch that today. But it's, from start to finish, complete masterpiece.
I just find that very weird that the Academy... If you're in that category, you should have to watch all the movies that it could possibly be nominated.
Did I mention the animated feature one? I saw this paper a little while ago, and it was like, that's the proof I go to. Because you know how a lot of people make the observation that Disney wins every year. Mm-hmm. There was a little slip, and it was from members of the Academy and what they were voting on, and the reasons they were voting on it for Best Animated Feature. And I believe it was Frozen, Big Hero 6, and there were like two other movies. One of them was for adults, and the other one was some foreign film, I think. I think My Life as a Zucchini was nominated. I'm not sure. It might have been the same year. That's a really good movie, too. But all of them were just kind of stammering answers out, and it was like a quarter of them voted for Big Hero 6 and didn't really have a reason. And most of them were just like, yeah, I didn't really see these movies, but I saw Frozen with my daughter, and she really liked it. And it's like, this is really embarrassing, guys. Like, animation is more than just for kids. And I feel like there should be two animation categories. There should be animation for children and animation for adults at the Oscars.
See, I think that's a bad stereotype we have in our culture, that because we show kids Disney. Everybody has seen Disney in our culture.
Sure.
You introduce kids to that at a young age, so everyone assumes when you see cartoons it's Disney or it's for kids. Animation can tell some really heavy stories that you might not necessarily be able to get.
It's like, how much anime do you watch, dude?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my favorite, I'm not an anime person, but Death Note handles some heavy-ass subjects.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, it's one of the best thrillers I've ever seen.
Yeah, even people, it's very Western. It's like Cowboy Bebop. It's one of those animes that you can watch it even if you're not a fan of the art style. Mm-hmm. Because it feels like, it's like, what is it, Avatar The Last Airbender? Because, I mean, that was made in America. It looks like an anime. That had a really widespread appeal. But for I think my favorite example for like this animation category at the Oscars, not working. It's when Toy Story 3 was up against fucking Anomalisa in 2015. I don't know if you've seen it, but Anomalisa is probably the best movie to come out of 2015. It's claymation. It's made by Charlie Kaufman, who made Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if you've seen that.
I have. It's good.
I really love it. That's like my favorite romance aside from her. But yeah, Anomalisa is a really, really, really fucking awesome crowdfunded movie, and it hit me like right in the heart, and I've never forgotten about it in since the few years I've seen it. And of course, Toy Story 3 wins, but it's like it feels like Toy Story 3 was nominated for Best Picture that year. I feel like both me and you agree on this as well. 2008 was the year that a lot of shit in the movie industry changed, because we used to have 5 Best Picture noms, and then The Dark Knight got nominated, or didn't get nominated, and like everyone was mad. It was like even the people who don't like superhero movies were like, "Oh, at least give it a nomination." Fuck.
And I think too, a lot of the Academy members are very old, and not necessarily a bad thing. But
we need some young blood in there.
Well, it's people who I think don't want to change their. Don't have an open mind. Like, for example, superhero movies. Oh, those are kid stuff. They'll never. But The Dark Knight. Is not just a superhero film. It is a drama. It is a thriller.
I see it more as a crime film than a superhero film, to be honest.
Yeah, because it's really the only difference between that and a normal film, I guess, is that one guy wears a clown suit and one guy wears a bat suit. But it's a battle of wits.
Yeah, nobody has any powers. It's all just through. I think the Joker sums it up. He's like, look what I did with a few barrels of gasoline and a couple of bullets.
Just a few carols from The Walking Dead. Look what I did with a few of these carols. Just a couple clones walking around.
That's another fucking show that needs to die that I used to love.
No, I think my buddy at work, he said he's done with the show because he's like, there's no foreseeable end. It's just going to keep going.
I think that the comics have a foreseeable end, at least like an ideal end, but the show is just there to make money. And it's like, okay, skip into, you know what, never mind. I don't care about the show. Fuck it. If you're watching The Walking Dead, then I'm sorry. I feel bad because I used to be a huge fan, man. I watch that shit day in, day out, and I love the comics. I still read them today, and they're great. But the show, man, first season, pretty damn good. Like Frank Darabont, felt like a big 6-episode movie. Season 2, dumpster fire. It had a few cool moments.
I got out at the end of season 3. Season 2 was my favorite though out of the 3 seasons. Because I really like Shane.
There were a few things I liked about season 2, but the things I liked about season 2, I didn't think we had enough of, or we didn't explore enough to make it truly satisfying. I think that Shane was, because I'm a big comic fan, right? And Shane was killed like 6 issues into the comic book. He was killed like when Rick found his family, and Shane's like, "Hey, let's go out hunting today," and he like takes him out to the woods, and essentially does what he does at the end of season 2, when he's just like, it's like, "Oh, I'm gonna fucking kill you. I want Lori. Oh my god, I thought you were dead." And then Carl shoots him or whatever. He's not even a zombie. He just shoots him when he's like 7 years old, which is much more powerful than some kid who can't fucking act. Who just died in the show, by the way.
Spoiler.
Oh, dude, I don't care. I honestly, I'm serious. Past season 6 of The Walking Dead is not worth watching. I feel like the asshole Peter Griffin guy right now, where it's like, Citizen Kane, where he like tapes over it. It's like, oh yeah, he's like, it's a sled. Rosebud's a sled. There you go. I just saved you 2.5 boobless hours. It's like, no, I saved you a hell of a lot more than 2 hours, my friend. It sucks though, because it's it's a big fucking dumpster fire now to a point where I can't look away. Like I'm getting the same joy that a lot of people seem to get out of it before, like in season 2, where they're getting sued for like $3 billion right now.
Wouldn't that do something with the creators?
Yeah, Robert Kirkman. He's suing the show because he's like, yeah, this is not my original vision, and it had something to do with the licenses or whatever. Frank Darabont's suing them, and Gail Ann Hurd, the executive producer, is suing them for $1 billion, like a piece. So their budget is so shit. Let me just show you something real quick. I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Walking Dead season 7, but the budget has decreased quite a bit. Rick green screen. There's a green screen shot in this show that I would recommend everybody look at if you haven't watched The Walking Dead in a while. But it looks like it's a painted backdrop. If I can just... Here it is. Yeah, look at that shit. Like, that's supposed to be a big junkyard in the back. that he's.
It does look.
When he's
looks
moving
out of
around,
place, yeah.
when he's moving around, and you see the background look completely still, and it's like
Rick looks like he's photoshopped onto it almost.
Yes. But yeah, it makes me sad because you have all of these very good. I mean, Frank Darabont got some great actors starting to show off, and I mean Andrew Lincoln, fantastic actor. Denai Guerrera as Michonne, fantastic actress. Norman Reedus as Daryl. He can be really good when he wants to be. He's just not given very much, even though he's getting paid as much as like everybody else.
He's the bad boy character.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what. Like, I like Daryl. Daryl's my favorite, but I do know what you mean. Like, Daryl's almost been given like he's kind of boxed in. Who's this guy? I'm gonna ask. Is Negan still kicking around?
Oh yeah. He doesn't go away. He's never going away. He's turned into very much like a Deadpool character in the comics. He always kind of was, but you didn't really know because you were so shocked that he killed one of your favorite characters. They fucked that up too. They ended up fucking up Glenn's character in season 6. They had him almost there. He was killed in the comics, and he was he was singled out in the group as the only guy who hadn't killed anybody ever. Negan didn't know that, but he did the eeny, meeny, miny, mo thing, and he lands on Glenn. And because of Rick's smugness, thinking that he could take over the world, sort of thing, like, oh, I can take you out. I've taken out like 3 groups before. He loses in the end, and loses the only person in his group who was ever truly innocent. And I feel like that is a really good bookend to like the first part of the story. I feel like the first 100 issues are like the intro. Negan changes fucking everything, but the show tried to do that, and then they made Negan into a guy who just laughs every 2 seconds, and he talks really slow, and his jokes are butchered. He felt like Abraham. You know, like he's got the...
It was Abraham.
Oh, he came, oh my god, it's been a while since you've seen the show, huh?
The last time I watched the show was the governor's death.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, he comes in literally the next episode, actually. Or an episode or 2 later. Yeah, the next one's with, like, Rick and Carl. But I think you'd like him. He kind of looks like you. He's got the big handlebar mustache. He has the almost Eraserhead hair, but it's like ginger. And is
he a doctor?
No. That's Eugene. He's an army guy. He's like a drill sergeant dude.
I did, because I watched a couple episodes after him. He shows up in a truck or something, doesn't he?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's honestly really, really good. He's got a lot of one-liners that I feel could have been actually good if AMC had any balls. Or if they were on HBO. Because he says stuff like, oh, son of a dick. And it's like, what? You know, it feels very made for TV, or like a 10th grade, like a 10-year-old wrote it.
Yeah.
It's really, really weird.
It's like when you hear someone say, "I'm going to kick your butt." It's not nearly as, it doesn't hit.
Yeah. There's scenes in which he's getting shot at. He's like, "Oh, mother dick." I'm serious. Like, these are real lines. And it's like, this is so out of place and weird. And in the comics, he said "fuck" as much as Negan does, and it's like, so it's really weird hearing him be like, "Oh, damn, son of a dick." It's like, okay, you know?
He sounds really trailer park trashy, though.
Yeah, he's supposed to be, and the worst part is...
No, but just son of a dick, I've heard somebody say that, like in their truck or something. Or Michael Caine's, "Oh, shit."
That's a masterpiece and a half. Jaws 4, The Revenge. Yeah, if anybody listening who hasn't seen Jaws 4, it's worth watching just for that one scene where Michael Caine sounds like he dropped a bunch of red wine on his white carpet. When like the shark comes up, he's like, "All right, guys, you gotta come over to the ship." And then the music peaks, and he goes, "Oh shit!" It's so weird. I don't know how he delivered it like that, but he missed out on his fucking Oscar. He won an Oscar that year. I hope I'm getting this right. Where, he won, but he wasn't able to pick it up because he was too busy shooting Jaws 4. That's like the ultimate embarrassment. Like, it's like, sorry, what is it? Yeah, sorry, Francis Ford Coppola can't come back to direct this movie. He's too busy making Jack, or something like that. Or anything he's making nowadays. Like, have you seen any of his new movies? I haven't seen any of them, like, but I've heard nothing but shit, and I've seen a few trailers recently, and it's like, you made The Godfather. Like, what the fuck is this?
No, it's interesting that a man like that had I guess his career his directorial career really peaked with Godfather 2.
You shouldn't have to live up to it, though.
Apocalypse Now. No. But once you hit that, it's like, how do you go higher? Do you know what I mean? It's like that was his hot streak. It's like Muhammad Ali. You know, he was a great boxer, but after a while, you start to cool down.
I'm trying to think of good directors that just kind of went to shit over time. Like, okay, here's a really controversial one. I don't think he's gotten to shit, but it's just so fucking boringly passable as a director is Steven Spielberg. I don't get fucking anything out of his movies anymore. Like, I watched The Post, and even after, and I'm like, yeah, I guess that was a Steven Spielberg movie. There was one moment in The Post that made me go like...
What's the Post about?
It's actually a really interesting story. It's about the Washington Post and Watergate or whatever. And it's about
yes. I remember seeing the trailers for that.
Yeah, Meryl Streep's like the first like big female journalist or whatever.
That was the one you were complaining about.
Yeah. It's like I think I complain a little too much. I'd give it like a 5.5 out of 10. 5 seems too neutral, and it did do some good things right. I was just so uninterested for the most part. But there's one scene where they're coming out of a courthouse, and there's like a door over here and a door way over here. And someone opens the doors, and like all the cameramen and the press go over, and there's this like big white dude, and he's like, "Oh yes, I'd like to answer any question." And Meryl Streep comes out the other door, and she's like looking over like this, and I don't know if it's Tom Hanks or Bob Odenkirk or one of the people around her goes, "Don't you think we should go over and answer some questions?" And she's like, "No, I've already said my piece. History will judge me," or something. She says some cheesy shit like that, and then she puts her nose up in the air and she starts slow motion walking down the stairs, and the music swells, and she's greeted at the bottom of the steps by all of these young inspired women who are like, "Oh, you're so inspiring." I'm like, this is so fucking cheesy. Like, I get what you're going for, and this is really nice, but this is so cheesy.
To me, I think what Steven Spielberg does best is wonder. I
think he used to do it better.
I think that's one thing he was always good at. He made you feel the wonder of movies.
That's why
movie magic is when I hear that, I think Steven Spielberg, because you have Jurassic Park, you have the Indiana Jones, you have E.T.
Yeah.
Hell, even Saving Private Ryan, for as brutal as it is, does have that movie magic to it.
It's a legendary war movie. I think that one of the best Steven Spielberg movies, and I know that not many people are going to agree with me on this, and they have their reasons, and they're probably right, is Hook. I adore Hook. It's one of my favorite childhood movies. It's stupid at times.
You know what a really good, in my opinion, that's a controversial Steven Spielberg movie?
What?
I like War of the Worlds.
I haven't seen it.
The only downfall of that movie, and it's not because of the direction or anything like that, it's because of the story of how it ends.
Really?
And that's how the book ends, too.
How does the book end? I'm assuming it's different than the 50s movie, or maybe...
No, it's the same thing. It's germs. Germs killed the aliens. It's nothing that the characters did or found out. It just kind of happens. It just kind of ends because the aliens get sick.
That seems kind of B-movie-ish, but I guess that's kind of what they were going for. I feel like they could also pull it off, and like if like M. Night Shyamalan directed that movie, I could feel a lot of people would like really be mad about it, but I don't know.
We're gonna start wrapping up here. So.
Oh yeah.
Any final thoughts on the state of movies, and where, as a fan, what do you think of the movie industry, like between being, as you were saying, Oscars going now to the little guy, big studio system, with how has this past year shaped your experience watching movies, but also like the Hollywood, the big movie industry, like with the Me Too's and how many people have gone down? What do you think?
It's a big question, but this year was really really big for film. Arguably, it's like a historic year, at least for me personally. I mean, historic to me. I think that Red Letter Media also highlighted this as well. I think that movies are going in a direction where Disney is, I hate to sound cynical, they're probably going to own most companies and like most big name movie studios here in the next decade or so. Building up all the money they have with Marvel and with Star Wars, even though Star Wars is kind of fumbling a little bit, people are still going to see it, like in droves. Jay and Mike, especially Mike, say that I hate going to the theater. There's people and they make noise and they're stupid and they go see stupid movies. Like, I love the theater. I'm like the complete opposite. I hate the hassle sometimes, and I do hate the crowds sometimes. I get that, but I love the experience of going to the theater, and I think Disney is about to change what going to the theater is. Because they're like, you have this little independent movie, and it's like Netflix. Netflix and streaming has changed the scene completely. It's like Gerald's Game came out last year, and I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore came out last year. And fucking, was it Bright came out recently. I fucking hated it, but it made a lot of money, right? And it's like the most viewed thing on Netflix ever. And this is a lot of people, and most people who have like an entertainment, thing like a PS4 or whatever have Netflix, or at least have a password or whatever. So lots of people are watching. Are movies gonna be on the big screen for much longer, or is that just gonna be where the superhero movies go? You know, like I feel it's like, all right, we got this little movie, it cost us $10 million, we're gonna put that in theaters. You know, it's like it almost feels like, and I don't know if I like that or not, because I feel like there is an inherent charm that I only got to feel this year. I feel like I'm late, where I got to see these movies that cost like $2 million to make, if that, and I get to see them on a big screen, and it feels like I'm seeing someone's vision that's just them. It's not like studios meddling like, well, audiences might not find this very interesting. Let's cut this out and this out. It feels like it's truly someone's vision that they wanted to put onto a screen. And I feel like we're getting more of that for stuff like Netflix, and in a way we're getting more of that for stuff like that for Marvel, and because I mean they're getting it's either crash and burn or it really works, like with Thor Ragnarok. You get this little indie director who's made like 2 really successful indie movies, and then they're gonna put him on a $300 million movie set, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time it doesn't for stuff like DC. Like I found that I think they got, what's his name, I don't fucking know. They got a really, really good director for Suicide Squad, and that movie was kind of a mess in the editing room, and it wasn't directed very well. I have a lot of issues with it. Man of Steel I found was very boring. Batman vs. Superman I found broke a lot of rules, and I feel like, I mean, that being said, even if you view it as its own thing, it's just way too goddamn long, and it feels like not really much happens for 3 hours. Quick rundown of DC, because since we're here, we got 2 movies left. Wonder Woman, I really liked when it came out. As I've sat on it, I thought that it's just fine. I think I like the message of the movie more than the movie itself. That being said, it's still probably the best DC movie. Justice League came out after that, and everybody hated it, and I went in it with super low expectations, and I'm like, I don't know. It's fine. It's like an episode of Super Friends. I wasn't offended by it. It was just dumb. But anyway, to wrap this up, I think that if film has changed in any way, I feel like it's singled out very much the little guy and the big guy, and I feel like a lot of film fans know what to look for now, especially with I'm gonna ask you a question. A24, how familiar are you?
What is it, sorry?
A24 is a movie studio that's gotten a lot of traction this year. Last 3 years, really. I didn't even know I was watching them. You ever see Ex Machina?
No, I haven't.
How about...
I know what it is, I just never got to see it.
What about Good Time?
Nope.
It Comes at Night.
No.
The Florida Project.
No.
Well, they're all good, you fucker. All right, what I'm trying to say is that A24 has made all these independent movies, and they're getting, like, universal praise. I'm pretty sure that It Follows was an A24 film.
Okay, I have seen that.
Yeah, they're making another horror film this year called Hereditary. It's based on like stuff you inherit from your parents and how that can haunt you for the rest of your life. That looks really fucking good, and I hear it's as good as The Exorcist, and that's really a lot of praise. But I'll go into that with low expectations. I feel like they've singled out who the little guy is and who the big guy is, and I feel like people are starting to take sides.
Yeah,
and I know who I'm fucking siding with.
You Disney fanboy. You.
Oh yeah, I love Disney. They're my favorite. Yeah, I've become very. Very bitter towards Disney, but at the same time, it's like they're gonna get my money one way or the other, and that's what pisses me off. Because I don't care where it comes from. I will pay for good entertainment, no matter what. If it's fun, if I get something out of it and it entertains me, cool. But I'm not gonna like boycott everything Disney does unless like it gets revealed that they're like, I don't know. Like whipping small children in a dungeon underneath, like making the sets spin around or something like that. Like if it's something like awful like that, but you know what? They'll still make fucking money. People won't care. Not enough to get rid of Disney, but like, they're too big to dude. You laugh, but they're too big to fail at this point almost. Like it would have to be some really crazy shit, like part of the Illuminati or some shit. Like it would have to be like some confirmed like deep government shit for Disney to go under. They're not going away. So
empires rise and fall like the sun.
I find that Disney's trying to make Star Wars their own thing. Some people hate it, some people like it. I like it. But I feel like they're very much taking over. And I didn't feel it until this year when they bought Fox. I thought that, I'm like, oh, they're taking over, haha, when they bought Star Wars and Marvel. I'm like, they're going to make lots of money. And Then they made way more money than I thought they were going to make with stuff like Doctor Strange and Black Panther and all that stuff. Little movies you would have never seen 10 years ago. But now they're like the highest grossing movies ever. And, yeah, with Fox and everything, Venom's going to come out and it's going to bomb like a motherfucker. And then they're going to get the rest of Fox's Marvel rights. And then they're going to make way more money. And we're just going to keep fucking taking it in the ass and seeing these mediocre superhero movies until the end of time.
Well, on that positive note there, I'd like to thank you for being my guest on this podcast, and thank you, my audience, for listening to another episode of the Ginger Binger podcast. Keep on binging. Keep on binging. Keep on binging. Keep on binging.